Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Deep Dive and Reviews with Miss Jeyy, and today we're going to talk about something interesting. It's all about how people get manipulated and how others use influence to control us. And this is based on the book Manipulation, Dark Psychology to Manipulate and Control People by Arthur Horn, which was published in 2019. But before we get into this, I'd like to give you a quick disclaimer. I'm not a psychologist or an expert. I'm just here to share what I understood while reading this book because for me, I found it really insightful, and honestly, it showed how these manipulation tactics are everywhere, even in the most mundane situations. So, if you are going to ask yourself, should you read the book? Well, if you're into this topic, keep watching and make sure you hit that notification bell for more content like this. My name's Miss Jeyy and I'm a teacher, a content creator, and in this channel we are going to review and share information about the books, the lyrics, the poems in any topic under the sun solely for educational purposes. So, having said my very long intro, let's get into it. Okay, so why did I read this book? Let's be real. Sometimes we do get that urge to control a situation or maybe manipulate someone, right? Especially when people get on our nerves. And that's what made me grab this book. But when I started reading it, I found out that it's actually beginner friendly and really breaks down how manipulation works. Like, it teaches you how to recognize it and, yes, of course, how to use it. So for this video, I'm going to share some of the key points just in case you haven't read the book yet but want to know what it's about. So in simple terms, manipulation is trying to influence how someone thinks or behaves, right? But there's a dark side to that, where people use it to deceive, exploit, or maybe abuse others. That said, this book doesn't tell you what to do. It only gives you the tools to help you, like how to understand manipulation, what are the manipulation techniques, and how to notice when manipulation is happening to you. So you get to decide for yourself whether or not you are going to use manipulation. And of course, you're able to recognize your own actions as well. Now, I'm going to give you the examples of manipulation that the book mentioned. The first one is called advertising. So this is probably the most common one. Advertisers always, show off the best parts of a product to convince us to buy. That's why brands work with influencers on TikTok, on Instagram, or YouTube, because people trust these influencers. Sometimes, sure, they're promoting for a good cause, because maybe they are raising funds or just want to genuinely help their followers. But on the darker side, that's where subliminal messaging comes in. Like when you see sexy models in liquor ads, it plants something into your subconscious that makes you associate that product with attraction or status. So in the end, these advertisers are able to influence your purchase, and it works wonderfully for them. Now, the next example of manipulation is called military strategy. So the book says that if you truly believe in your cause, it can be morally okay to manipulate your enemy however you can. Manipulating your enemy has always been one of the bigger war strategies, even in the historical time. So the next example is workplace manipulation. So in the professional world, competition is always there. And the book talks about how it can get tricky working with close friends, because often lines get blurry between being helpful and being competitive with your friend in the workplace, especially if both of you want to get promotions or get the upper hand. So it is indeed important to identify certain relationship paradigms in the workplace to avoid these types of conflict. The next example of manipulation is personal relationships, or manipulation in the personal relationship. So this is one of the most controversial topics, but it is also one of the most natural, which I agree, because we may not realize it, but we've been exposed to manipulation since we were kids. Parents give us rewards when we did well, then they punish us when we don't change our bad habits. So even our teachers do the same, right? Because that's just how discipline works. And even babies do manipulation. They cry to get what they need. They cry when they're upset. They cry when they're in pain. And For me, it's not bad because it's just how they communicate. However, in certain romantic relationships, emotional manipulation here can be really damaging. So if your partner's been guilt tripping you or using emotional blackmail or controlling you in subtle ways, that's a dangerous manipulation. So if you notice those red flags early, please don't ignore them. Save yourself the trauma and get out while you still can, because no one deserves to be stuck in a toxic relationship. Now, according to Arthur Horn, manipulation can be useful if you use it right, because it can help you reach your goals. It can influence people without hurting them, and it can protect yourself from other manipulators as well. But in order to successfully manipulate, you've got to be emotionally intelligent. That means being aware of your own behavior and being able to read others as well. So what does Arthur Horn say manipulation really is? So he explained that manipulation is intentional influence, where the manipulator tries to change someone's behavior to reach the manipulator's own goal. Most of the time, those people who failed in manipulating others are often branded as the manipulators compared to those who successfully did the manipulation. So the goal here is basically to manipulate others without them knowing it, and its purpose is to change something in someone's behavior so that you as a manipulators can achieve your own goal. Now let's break this down real quick. I'm going to share with you the steps identified in the book, and at the same time give you an example that I deliberated for this video. So in the book, the examples are mostly in the workplace, but here I will be giving you a different example. But the steps are from the book. So step 1, the first step that you need to do is know your goal. So you have to ask yourself, what do you want exactly? You need to be specific. Don't just say, I want people to like me. You have to say, I want to be class president by the end of the semester. So step 2, after identifying your specific goal, you have to map out how you'll get there. So say for example, if you want to be class president by the end of the semester, you have to list all the ways you can make that happen. So for example, you can join school activities, you can be helpful to others, you can post useful stuff online. And this actually works because according to Arthur Horn, when you have the capacity to help others, you gain value to them. So basically, helping them achieve their goals can elevate your chances of achieving your own. So by helping other people achieve their goals, you can also have the chance to achieve your own specific goals. So you have to be helpful. That's it. Step 3 is observe and collect information. So here, after identifying your goals and then mapping out how you'll get there, next is you have to observe and collect information. It means you have to watch people. You have to observe them and take notes of their behavioral patterns. So you have to ask questions like, what do they like? Who do they trust? What triggers them? Because knowing your audience and their pattern is essential in gathering data about them. So you have to really observe these targets, because for example, their mannerisms, their behavior, it can contribute to the behavioral patterns that they usually do in the day-to-day basis. So yeah. Next one is step 4, which is to look for openings. If you have gathered enough data from your target, then you have to look for openings now. You have to ask specific questions like, when is the right time to act? And at the same time, you also have to identify threats by asking what could get in your way. What could go wrong in this endeavor. So for example, in our example of wanting to be class president at the end of the semester, your opportunity could be that there is a new leadership spot that opens in your school. But the threat is that someone more popular is also running for president. So in step 5, you have to take action. You say, now's the time to move and use what you've learned, or you can just adjust your approach as needed if you think it's not going well. So next is you have to reflect and improve. So after doing all the steps from 1 to 5, this is where you have to reflect. If the manipulation was effective, then good for you. If it's not, then of course you have to identify ways for improvement. So you have to ask yourself, did the manipulation work or did it flop? Learn from it either way, because real manipulators don't just try once, actually. They constantly learn and eventually evolve into better manipulators. And yeah, that's how you do it. You have step 1, step 2, step 3, 4, 5, and then 6. And according to the book, that's how you do it. The tools and the method are well explained in the book. So if you need more clarifications, you can grab a copy of this book if you want. But to answer the question, should you read the book? Well, these are my personal notes. First, it is super beginner friendly, so it's easy to follow, and it has real examples, especially in the workplace scenario, as what I've mentioned. And it helps you both use and defend against manipulation. It actually, it's like a beginner's guide in identifying if there is manipulation that's happening in your relationship. But what's not so great about this book is the following. It's not super academic, so it's more of a basic guide. There are also some parts that feel, honestly, I'm sorry, Arthur Horn, but they feel repetitive for me. And while reading, you might think it's just too surface level, and especially if you already know about the stuff that is being discussed in the book. But if you are only curious about how manipulation shows up in daily life, or if you want to learn about psychology or communication as a beginner, then this book is a great start. And also, it will open your eyes to what's really happening around you, and even within your own relationships in the workplace or in friendship, for example. So if you want to read the book, yeah, I definitely say that it's a great book. And I learned something from it, so I will recommend it. Anyway, if you reached this part, thank you very much. Let me know in the comments if you like this video, and share with us if somebody has already manipulated you in the past, or if you have done it without knowing it. And don't forget to like, comment, and share your own thoughts about this episode. We are available on my FB page called Jezreel, on my other YouTube channel called Learn with Miss Jeyy, where I teach English lessons, and of course on Spotify podcast. So let me know what books or lyrics you want to recommend next. This has been Deep Dive and Reviews with Miss Jeyy. Stay curious, stay critical, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!